Whether you're on TikTok or Instagram or pretty much anywhere, whether it's a one-person CEO of a business who literally just started their business a week ago and they're calling themselves the CEO, or if they are a leader of a multitude of businesses, one of the things that is rarely ever shown or talked about is stress and what happens when you are running an organization or you are trying to build something, and what really truly happens to the body. What happens to you? What happens internally? What happens to your lifespan? What happens to your health? What happens to everyone around you? And when you understand the physiological response to the stress that comes as a business leader, you can then start to make changes that will, on the flip side, make you more healthy, more vibrant, give you a much better lifestyle than your typical employee or a manager of a business, things like that. Okay, you'll start to see that there's a very ugly side and there's a very positive side when you understand their stress response that comes from being a leader and taking on all of that responsibility. Okay. So, but before we get into that, what's up? My name is Dean Soto. I am the founder of prosulum.com, prosulum.com. And we are a virtual staffing agency. You might have heard of virtual assistants. You might have heard of in-house employees. These are real people who do real things for your business. Okay. Now, your typical virtual assistant, your typical in-house employee or remote worker, you give them a task, they ask a ton of questions. Hopefully they get that task done. Oftentimes they don't, and you can't start scaling a business that way. We have what's called a virtual systems architect, very similar to a virtual assistant. However, you give them a task, they document it step by step, boom, 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 into a standard operating procedure with pictures and everything, so good that you can give it to your grandma and your grandma can do it. And then they do the task. So you give them another task, they document it, then they do the task. No questions back and forth. You shoot a 5-minute video, a 10-minute video, they document it, do it, and you never have to do that task again. And now everyone in your business knows exactly what to do when it comes to that particular thing that needs to be done. So if that sounds cool to you, go to www.prosulum.com, www.prosulum.com, and go check us out. All right. So all that being said, let's get into this. Owning a business, it's great. I remember when I started Prosulum back in the day, and I got my little LLC thing in the mail, and I was legit with the state of California and so on and so forth. And I had my title as president, and I could put president and CEO of Prosulum without making a single dime yet. And I started very quickly. I started to see on Instagram and Facebook that the majority of people who have CEO in the title or whatever were in that same boat. And so beforehand, when I was working as an employee at Boeing, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's the CEO of XYZ company. Whoa, this is so cool. And then come to find out, that CEO makes about $5,000 a year on the business and has been trying to build that business for 3 years. Okay. So, very, very funny. Very funny once you kind of go into this world. So that said, you're going to hear some things in the background, possibly like cars and stuff going by. Anyway, here's the real cost of this crown if you choose to wear it. Ultimately, stress is not a badge of honor. In the American culture, in the Western culture, I should say, Western in the sense of, like, I would say American, so the United States, Canada, Australia, Great Britain. There's a heavy culture on work and stress and workaholism. And so stress is kind of seen as a badge of honor, but it isn't. Okay. Ultimately, it's a tax on your health and your business. There's a great chapter in the book Rework by Jason Fried and David Hannemeyer Hansen, the guys who created Basecamp, super successful software company, that stress and workaholism is not a badge of honor. It actually shows that you are incompetent. It shows that you are not doing things well. You're not building a good business. And so what does this do? Typically CEOs have a shorter lifespan than the average person, especially during industry downturns. Okay. The real thing when it comes to executives in general is that most of them they are so burned out that they want to find a way out, either to another company or to a whole nother hobby or a whole nother line of work. Okay. In our culture, the solution is typically working harder or sucking it up, right? You're making all this money, right? You're making your 200, 300, 400,000 plus stock options, all these different things. Suck it up. And you should be grateful that you have this job. But the reality is that we are not taught to, even the best CEOs, when they get their MBAs from Pepperdine or whatever university, they're not taught how to be the most effective executive, the most efficient and effective executive. A lot of the time, they're taught a lot of administrative stuff. They're taught a lot of fluff. And so they get into these positions of power and they completely just tank, right? And so what happens is they lose relationships. They lose, even in their marriages. I know for me, when I would have fits of where I would get mad and bust my hand through a wall, or I would, on the flip side, just be extremely sad and lonely and drink myself into oblivion. And that put the people who loved me at risk, that put my employees at risk, that put my life at risk, that put a whole host of different people at risk because of this feeling of loneliness, stress, not being able to regulate, not having things that would allow me to spend time on myself in meditation, in breath work, in things that allowed exercising, that allowed me to regulate all of the stress that comes from being a CEO. Okay. 50% of CEOs report feelings of isolation and loneliness. And it sucks. It really is lonely at the top because you have typically employees who are under you that on the surface, and this is not bashing any employees. This is just in general how the different roles act and think. And I'm not knocking. I'm actually not saying even it's a bad thing. It is what it is. You have employees that on the surface are like, yeah, boss, you're awesome. Thanks so much for everything, whatever. And if the boss is really good, they'll still talk crap. If the boss is really bad, they'll definitely talk crap. And you have to think that everybody is out for their own best interest. And so employees don't really necessarily care about you. They care about being able to grow, and rightfully so. Okay. On the flip side, you have other business owners or other CEOs who have their own stresses that you might get together every now and then, but I can't tell you how many times I've been in groups of really high, powerful business owners who run multi-million dollar businesses, have thousands of employees, and they're talking about their alcohol problems, they're talking about their marriage problems, they're talking about that their problems with their kids and all these different things. And so you have connection, which is great, but at the same time, because it's such a high pressure, high stress job, they have their own you can make friends, but they have their own problems. And so it's not like you can continually communicate all the time. They have their own issues, their own things they're dealing with. And so you come together, you talk, and then you go back out. And it's like kings meeting. Like when you see heads of states meeting, that's the way it is. There's not like a friendship where it's like, hey dude, what are you doing this weekend? It's not like that. It's usually very rare, but it's this connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect. Okay. So there's a heavy amount of isolation. Okay. Heavy amount of isolation. And then as that stress level, all of the cortisol starts building up, I mean, a lot of the times people are not exercising during times of crisis, economic crisis. CEOs are they are getting older physically because they're not exercising, they're not doing things like meditation, yoga, things that relieve stress. Stress is building up. And so you'll see this, like you'll see CEOs actually age faster. If you look at the presidents of the United States, from when they came in to office to when they leave, a lot of the times it might be 4 years and they look so much older because of just the amount of stress and damage that's being done to their body through cortisol and so on. And this is like long-term chronic illnesses. And so the more that you get stuck in this rut, the more you start seeing that it's taking a toll. And then ultimately it's taking a toll on the business. The other thing that CEOs face is decision fatigue. Okay. CEOs are there to make decisions. Okay. So for me, this was a huge thing, but you have to think that how many times are you getting emailed during the day? You're getting emailed by friends, you're getting emailed by your employees, you're getting emailed by your clients, you're getting emailed by tax authorities, you're getting emailed by all these different people. And so you're constantly having to make decisions, especially when you're a bottleneck and you haven't allowed and empowered other people to make certain decisions. You are in this decision fatigue. It's real. Okay. And then what happens is after a while, your decision quality starts going down and you start making pretty costly mistakes. And so good CEOs, if you are a good CEO, you're going to figure out how to take the constant, how do I want to say it? The constant amount of information coming in that requires decisions. You're going to want to take that and disperse it. And this is where systems come in. Okay. We always talk about systems. Every video that you see is going to talk about systems in some fashion or another. Okay. If you are a good CEO, you are going to start building things that allow other people to take this burden of stress off of you. Other people or other software or whatever. Okay, you always want to start thinking in systems. And W. Edwards Deming has a good quote that I love. A bad system will beat a good person every time. I remember there was a client that I had, and he worked in an oil field industry. Really cool, amazing guy, like super smart. And he worked in refilling fuel. And he had this system when he first got his VSA. He had this system of tracking where he was refilling all the different fuels and lubricants and things like that, sending out trucks and stuff. And I remember sitting with him on a Zoom call, and he was like, "Yeah, I have a system, but it's like horrible and it takes so long to do." And I'm like, "I don't care. Just let's sit and do it." And so we're on the Zoom call, and he's going through step by step how he goes about managing all the trucks and monitoring the lubricants and so on and so forth. And I'm sitting there, and it's going on 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And I think it ended up being like 25 to 30 minutes long video. And I'm like, perfect. And he's like, yeah, it's a really crappy system. I'm like, it's a system. It's working for you. So we took that video and gave it to the VSA, and they documented it step by step. And then he was able to hand it off to the VSA. I'm like, let's just get that on paper first. Yeah, it's a sucky, crappy system, but it's a system that works. Then he was able to let the VSA start taking over aspects of that system. So now he was free to then take that stress off of him and go and build something else and do something. And it made it to where the stress of all of that monitoring was no longer an issue. Yes, it's a bad system. Yeah, it took forever to do. But that bad system beats a good, if let's say he ended up getting sick, nobody else could do that thing. It didn't matter if it was a good system or not. It was in his head. And so now anybody could do it, and they could sit there and complain, this system sucks, blah, 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 blah. But now anybody could do it. So a bad system will beat a good person at it, hands down, every single time. The goal is not to eliminate stress, but to actually eliminate the relevancy of it. It makes that task irrelevant. That's the stress from that task irrelevant, because you are giving it to other people or other things. So as a CEO, it's like, oh, I don't stress out about that because it's irrelevant to me now. So this is where, as a CEO, you need to start treating your body as a huge critical business function. Okay. People might look at you and say you're selfish. You're sleeping in too much. You are at the gym too much. You're in yoga too much. You're meditating too much or whatever. But if that is what your body is craving as a CEO, as a business owner, that is what is needed, because you are the creative engine. You are the visionary of your company. Okay. If you need to sleep 10 hours a night, if that's what your body needs, then do it. If you need to be in the gym 3 hours a day, then you need to start setting up systems that allow you to do that. If you only eat organic whole foods, you need to do that. Because when you have optimal optimal health habits that fit you personally, you could have better decisions. Your health is going to be good. Your energy levels are going to be tip-top shape for all the things that you need, including your family, including your employees, and so on and so forth. Your emotions are going to be regulated and under control. You're not going to be reactive to everything that comes in. During economic downturns, you're not going to be freaking out just like everybody else is. You're going to say, okay, we can get through this. No biggie. Been through this before. You're going to be resilient. You're going to be at a level that is far and above everybody else. Okay? So you have to treat your body, which is a system, you have to treat your body as a critical business system. Anything else that gets in the way of these things, you need to start systemizing and taking off your plate. That's how important this is. Your mind is a tool and is a system as well. You need to be able to start connecting with your purpose. Okay. Whether it's journaling, whatever, you need to be able to take all of the crap that's out there, start writing down all of the things, your fears, all of the things that need to get done, and so on and so forth, so that you can then systemize those, get them off your plate, so then you can connect with your purpose. And then you're able, once you're like, okay, this is what I need to be doing. Like for me, cold emailing is my thing right now. I have a whole thing that allows me to, for like less than $5, built this thing where I could create customized message series that and outreach up to, thousands of people. Obviously, I have to pay for the leads, I have to pay for stuff like that, but I can do at mass scale what I know needs to be done. Okay. Because I got all the fears out, all of that stuff. I connected with what do I need to do now? I need to work out. I need to meditate. I need to do breath work. I need to do cold email marketing and YouTube marketing. So that's why you see me on YouTube almost every day doing these videos like this, because I know what my purpose is. And then I subtract everything else out. I systemize and I remove it off my plate, whether through AI systems or virtual systems architects or whatever. Your structure is another system that needs to be honored and built. What do you delegate? You need, and who are your trusted peer group so that you don't isolate yourself? And then what boundaries are you going to set for yourself? If somebody can do something that you do 80%, at least 80% or better, delegate. You could be the test subject and start with my cold emailing. I'd send things out and I want to see what the replies are and I want to see how to do certain things. But then I can then delegate that. And then who are my circle of colleagues and friends that I can go to when I need to connect? And then what boundaries can I set on my clients, on my VSAs, on my any other employees that I have, on my relationships, so that I'm able to be optimal, start building that structure. A lot of the times what you need to do is cut out things. You don't need more hours. You don't. You don't need more meetings. You don't need more staff. You don't need more complexity. You need focused time. You need meaningful conversations. You need the right people, things like simplicity. You need to, what you really need is to say no to most of the stuff and keep it to keep your life to exercise, spirituality, like meditation, whatever, exercise, spirituality, nutrition, sleep, all the health stuff, friends, and purpose. Everything else delegated and systemized. So your focus really is on 4 or 5 different things every day. The more that you subtract, the more that you're going to see that you could have always let this go and bless somebody else with work, with paying them, with a boundary that was needed. Start learning to cut and turn those things that are tasks that you're constantly doing on a regular basis into a process. Document what you're doing. This is why I have VSAs. They're cheat code. I don't like to write. I don't like to write on the type on the computer. I don't like to write. I want to do a video, show how something gets done, have somebody else who loves to write do it. Takes me 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They document it, and then they do it. Cool. Cold email process. This is how we do it. This is how we get find leads. This is how we set up our systems, whatever. Go do it. Here, and it's all documented. So then I can get on a video like this and boom. This allows cognitive freedom. This allows you to start thinking and enjoying the things that you want to do. And it allows for scalable operations. You get to focus heavily on yourself, which means your cup's overflowing into everybody else so that you're no longer the bottleneck. Everything's unrestricted. All you need to do is relax, be exactly who you need to be as a leader so everyone can follow your vision. You're a tip-top shape, so that overflows to the rest of your people. You get more freedom, more command versus control, and you are really truly leading a business, not a job. Obviously, you're going to start having smoother operations. Your team's going to love you. They're going to be more empowered. Nobody's going to just constantly be coming to you. Hey, help me with clients, team, whatever. You're going to have these documented systems that the majority of people go to first. And then they come to you only when absolutely needed. So you're free to conquer the world. I cannot stress enough, whether it's through us with a virtual systems architect or on your own, you have to build systems. I did this. I built Prosulum because I wanted the cheat code to start documenting stuff. Get things documented. I just do a 5-minute video, 10-minute video. That's what our clients do. It gets documented and then off the plate. Okay. We call it the freedom framework. Document, replicate, and scale. And so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, if you want to not be that stressed out CEO that lives less than everybody else, stop managing stress and just build systems. Document your process. We do it with 5-minute videos. Build scalable systems. Reclaim your time. Do the things that you love. I'll see you at the gym 3 hours a day. I'll see you at breath work, whatever. If that sounds cool to you, go to www.prosulum.com. If you want to schedule a call with us, go to www.prosulum.com/schedule. and stop managing your stress and start building things that allow you to make stress completely irrelevant. And all you're doing is building and growing and enjoying the life that you wanted to enjoy, the life that you've architected for yourself. So go check out prosaloom.com, and I will see you in the next video.